Hello everybody, my name is Mohit Deshpande, and in this video we're actually going to apply contrast and brightness to our image. So to do this, we first actually have to load an image, and then we have to show it. So that's kind of the first step. So I'm just going to load in my test image, and you can feel free to load in whatever image that you want. So I'll do image equals cv2.imread test.jpg here, and then I want to show it in this loop here. So we'll do something like cv2.imshow app, and remember we have to use the same identifier here so that we show the image below all these track bars, and then image. So let's actually just run this first of all and see that, hey, our image loads. Excellent. So now that this works, we can actually do stuff with brightness and contrast. And so here's something that is good to know. So when we change contrast and brightness, what we're actually doing is we want to apply that contrast and brightness to the original image. So what we don't want is sort of like a compounding effect. And what I mean by that is if I change the contrast to 2, then we want to apply that contrast to 2 to the original image. We don't want to, if I change to 2 and then change to 3, then I don't want to apply a contrast of 3 to the previous image that had a contrast of 2. So I don't want to like compound these images together. So what I'm going to do is I need to first of all have an image that I'm like a modified image, basically. And then what I need is have a modified image, and then I have an original image. And the original and the modified image is all going to be created from the original image. So instead of calling this image, I'm going to actually rename this to be color original. And I'm going to just copy and paste this. So I'm showing color original. And then I'm going to create a copy of this called color modified equals color original dot copy. And the thing is, I'm only going to make changes to this color modified. I don't want to change the original, because if I do, then I'm going to like compound the contrast and brightness, which is the exact opposite of what I want. I just want to affect the original image, what these values are. So speaking of these values, I actually have to get the values from this track bar. So how do I do that? And as you probably have already figured out by now, OpenCV has a single function that will do this. Excellent. So I can get the contrast here. I can get contrast equals cv2.getTrackBar position. That's the function. Now I've supplied 2 arguments. I have to supply the name of the track bar slider. In this case, it's contrast. And then I have to specify the window that this slider is in, so which is app. So now I get the contrast value. I also need the brightness value, so I can do the same thing. Brightness equals cv2.getTrackBar position brightness and app. Okay, so now that I have contrast and brightness, I can actually change this color modified by applying contrast and brightness to this original image. I don't want to change it to this modified image because, remember, I don't want these effects to compound. So let me add contrast and brightness to this original image. So how am I going to do that? Well, I can use that add weighted, right? So I'll do something like color modified equals cv2.add weighted. And so what's my first image? Well, that's my original image, color original. And then I need the contrast value, which is just going to be contrast. Now I need the image 2, if you remember. In that case, I'm just going to use np.zeros color original.shape, and then the data type is color original.data type. And if you remember, this was like the more efficient way that we can create a new matrix for I2, because even though we aren't actually going to use this, we still have to give OpenCV an image. So we'll do, and then comma 0 is the beta, and that's what basically just nullifies this anyway. Okay, so now that I have that, I need brightness. And so the thing with the brightness, if you remember, I want 50 to be my new 0. And anything greater than 50, I want to, be a positive value. And anything below 50, I want to be a negative value. So a really slick way of doing this is doing brightness minus 50. And so what that does is if we have a brightness of exactly 50, which is, I said it's our new 0, then it becomes 0. And if I have anything, if brightness is less than 50, you notice that this is going to be a negative number, and if brightness is greater than 50, this quantity is going to be a positive number. So everything works out. Excellent. There's a couple things I have to change though. For example, I don't want to show color original each time because then it's just going to show the original image. I want to show this modified image here. So I'm just going to copy paste this to be modified. Okay, so that is actually all we need. So let's go ahead and run our app. I'm going to save it, I'm going to run it. You can see that I can change the contrast and it changes the image. Cool. Then I can change brightness as well and it changes, the image as well. Okay, so remember when I said that we should not be, compounding this effect. I'm going to show you what happens if we do. So instead of color original here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this with color modified. So what we're doing is at each iteration of this, we're just like compounding, the contrast and the brightness on top of each other as we change the slider values. So you're going to see what happens here when I run this. So I'm going to run this. I'm just going to bump up the contrast by 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4, and you can see that I can't go back. I'm changing this contrast value, but I can't seem to go back. And that's because of I get this weird behavior, and that's because I'm trying to compound this on top of an image that's already modified. Instead, what I should be doing is this should be color original because I'm modifying the original image with these new values each time. I don't want to do that weird. I don't want that weird result of compounding the contrast and the brightness on top of each other. On top of previous iterations, I should say. But anyway, that fixes our contrast and brightness. So now we can apply contrast and brightness to our image, and I showed you how to do that in this video, so I'm just going to do a quick recap here. So basically in this video, we discussed how we can apply contrast and brightness to our image. Well, first of all, we actually showed the image here. Then we created an original version and a modified version of this image, and we only make changes to the modified version because, like I keep mentioning, we only want to apply contrast and brightness to the values of the original in this current iteration of the loop. If we change this value to color modified, then it's like we're compounding contrast and brightness on top of the previous iterations of the image, and we get really weird results. So we do not want to do that. We want to use this color modified and show it, and then this color modified operates from the original each time. It doesn't operate from a previous iteration of itself. Anyway, all this is set up. I also mentioned how we can, get trackbar positions and everything. So all of that stuff is covered in this video. So this is great and all, and we're gonna keep building and keep working on this app in the upcoming videos.